the matter? What's wrong with this side of the room?
It's the right side.
Depends on how you're looking at it. Oh,
Grandpa Grossman at grocery store on the Sharon line. How are we doing here? Oh, we got plenty of time. We're kicking some more. We got a hot day. Excuse me. No less than 2 important.
I know.
What's happening to that? Oh, sorry, didn't mean to break into this sentence. Hold it, Hampton. You're on hold. Sometimes bad news travels slow. Can't mention something vague and open-ended, but that Melissa has details, so I asked Melissa for the details.
It's not like.
Cottage, Shiva, continue to send us very impulsive, right? Shoulder here. Leo!
hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
Robin, how are you?
Young man,
How are you?
welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
How you doing, Marty?
Oh, we got.
He's giving me lots of hugs. PRN.
Leo, how are you?
Absolutely. But we are waiting. I have one. How do I do that?
You might see so many of us. You'll like the post I put in from a fellow T-shirt that I saw going home last week. Several people like it today. Will like it.
Well,
You were going to be a part of it. All by yourself. Oh! Never mind, you're not all by yourself.
I'm not all by myself.
We have the executive branch here right up front.
hello. Good job.
I like the seating arrangement.
I do.
But you're still sitting in the back row.
Was this seat your idea?
We will neither confirm nor deny. I owe you no explanation. You weren't here last week?
I only guessed.
You weren't here last week? Oh, you tried it out? I owe you
were-
nothing.
We were away.
You know, when you have it set up like
Excuse me, my darling. You know why I'm here? Because I'm away to be here with you and you give your time. I drove across alligator infested swamps to be here and help them shopping.
I hope so too.
Oh, did you run over tourist stuff? Of course, 9:30, the other end of the building. It's great fun.
I have Bingo Mary coming.
I'm trying to come across like a veteran.
Oh, good.
Bingo Mary.
The best part of that.
I'm not Bingo Mary.
Is that in the script tonight?
I can do that.
Well, we do expect a great performance.
Only partly round. We're well rounded.
We'll work on getting the
How
time.
are we doing here? Oh, we still got plenty of time to get.
Just give me a dirty look at it.
No way.
So,
I'll do this.
look at this one.
You coming? You got company?
Everybody's sitting over here. God forbid everybody should sit over here.
We're holding it for Tony. That's my story. I'm sticking
We're
with
not
it.
gonna have to get closer together.
Did you give her a little ticket? Yeah. What is it? so quiet and polite and well behaved. Yes, ma'am?
What's the name of the song you started to play?
Which what? Which one?
Just right now.
I've done 4. I had a Lute Beret by Bach. And Mason Williams, Classical Gas. Top 10 hit in
That's it.
1968. That one,
Classical
okay.
Gas. That's what I'm hearing. Classical Gas?
Hell no, unpointedly not. In
It's
fact,
all,
that's part of my introduction. You'll have
all
fun with this. We're going to have a good time. Oh, at the beginning, they have no context, so why would we? Go ahead, repeat after me. Mwahaha.
No, you do it too well. I'm not gonna try and figure it out.
Let's just tell a secret.
You have no obligation to negotiate or discuss or evaluate anyone. He wasn't here last week.
That's true, he wasn't, was he?
You know, you snooze, you lose around here. We're
I'm projecting. I got it figured out.
And the screen's up, so you can't project.
yakataka yakataka. Years ago, when my middle girl was a little girl, we're running around town, running errands, just hanging out, doing daddy-daughter stuff. And I'm in a goofy mood, and I just keep coming up with one corny dad joke after another, and after each one I do a vaudeville for us. After a while, she looks at me with a pained look on her face, my little 8-year-old, and says, "Please, Daddy, no more yakataka." That's Aaron's mommy.
She caught it. She knew early on, right?
Aaron would do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my boy.
We have this. We walked right past him, didn't you, Stan? I'm sorry.
Stan Charles was always really close.
He's right, he's on it.
I don't know what to say. I don't, I'll let you know. I know, you don't talk to me.
People, I forgot my microphone, so I'll have to catch up with the people online in a few minutes during candle lighting. Summer camp style. I say it, you say it. Agreed?
Yes.
Hine,
Hine,
mato,
mato,
uma,
uma,
naim,
naim,
again.
hine,
Mato,
mato, uma, naim, shara, hine, mato, uma, naim, sheven, achim,
this is all you. It's like, in parliamentary terms, you cannot second your own motion. Halachically, you can't say amen to your own brachas. You know, clap for all of them, not for us. Welcome aboard, everyone. I'm about to disappear for a moment and go back because I forgot to bring out my mic. I forgot. This is only the second time we're experimenting with the downstairs format. So welcome aboard, everyone. Those distance davening with us online through our congregational website live stream, happy to have you. Be aware, we hope you made occasion to download a copy of our satellite Siddur before you got on board. Be aware that as we are experimenting these last couple of weeks and the next few with different approaches to how we run our service, the content you have in hand is the core of our service. It's going to be the same, but don't get lost because we'll juggle around. And based on how this experiment proceeds, come January, we'll be uploading a whole new satellite Siddur, so you can follow that instead. In the meantime, don't get lost. Everyone in the house, look around, notice the exits, notice where the bathroom is, and notice anyone whose name you do not recognize. Go ahead, say it.
Yes, Rabbi.
No. Notice anyone whose name you do not recognize. Nobody wants to call me on that twice now. Look around for anyone whose face you do not recognize. And say hello later and give them your name and get theirs, because the temperatures are dropping, the license plates are changing colors for the autumn. We have some guests in. Make sure everyone visiting and davening with us feels welcome. It's important. This is the local branch of the Household of Israel. Everyone who visits us has a wonderful time, talks about us when they get home, and then those of their friends who fly south for the winter drop by and find out how wonderful we are. Even as the psalmist says, Ta'amu iruti kitov, taste and see that the Lord is good. Well, in this case, it's us that are wonderful. We're delighted to be happy with everyone here. Tonight is first Friday of the month, our special celebration Shabbat. But to start our service, page 124 in the prayer books, let us begin by sharing together the words of our Shabbat and congregational mission statement, middle of 124. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Anita, if you'd honor us by coming forth, Kvod Gvirti, Ana Lavo, Lahadlik Ulevarech, Anerot Shabbat. Shabbat candle lighting, page 121.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who are. Please join me. All sanctuary in all who bring the offer of help. Love. You want to do it? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Which is our cue. תודה, גברת. That's right, we did it already. I caught that. Did everyone say amen? Because the cantor made the bracha. We second the motion. That means it's now official. It's Shabbat. Brother Aaron visiting us. Come forth, sir. You're a designated drinker if you come and sweeten the Shabbat. Our Kiddush, Leil Shabbat, is the very next page if you're in the right spot. 1, 2, 3 in our prayer book. And not just Aaron, we get all the Goldbergs as well. Sarah, is it? Happy to have you.
This seventh day is consecrated to the eternal God.
On
Shabbat,
Shabbat,
eternal sign of creation, we remember that we are created in the divine image. We therefore raise the cup in thanksgiving.
Let's read together in the middle of the page. Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'rasamanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava u'ratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher mitziat Mitzrayim, ki banu b'chata v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat.
Tovim Aleim Baruchim. Amen to that. Thank you, kids. Oh. Back at you, Chazan. You guys aren't walking off with my prayer card, are you? Chazan, if you would, Milady.
That's what happens.
I'm sorry, we'll need it again next week. But I'm glad you cherished the opportunity to be part of our simcha. Page 138. Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Mor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Yishmi'anu. Oh בשלום, בעטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובשמחה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי הלאה, בואי הלאה, Those in the satellite studio, you're in the middle of page 2. In-house, Rabbi Gross invites you to the Gross of Pages, 144, for Chatzi Kaddish, which is our transition into our evening service. Amen. כל בית ישראל, בגולון, בגולון, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו, אמן, יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך, וישתבח, ויפעל ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמלך קדשו בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה, ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירם בעלמה ואמרו Amen. Page 146, we rise for the call to worship. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, even as we rise out of respect when the judge enters a courtroom or when the king enters a throne room to hold court, so can we, having begun our service, resume our suits as we prepare for the recitation of the Shema. We mentioned last week the cantor is traditionally the pace car. The congregation prays privately and sings together, and the cantor sets the tone. Here on 148 and 49, a two-page spread, 4 options, Hebrew and 3 English. I invite everyone, turn inward, spend a moment, prepare for the recitation of the Shema on this Shabbat, which commemorates God's conclusion of the works of creation by pondering the vastness of the creation that God formed with any of these prayers of your choice. And let us say Amen and turn the page. Geula, page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and your love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets, instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces, and therefore affirm in unison, though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark images the vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice in Israel. After the power and drama of the Song of the Sea on page 160, the serenity of an evening prayer, or 161. Your choice. Take a moment, personal devotion, And we'll get together at the bottom of whatever paragraph it is you happen to be doing. Shalom Aleinu. Now, on the one hand, that finishes all the preliminaries, Kabbalat Shabbat, benedictions, candle lighting, Shema V'choteha, and it's time for Tefillah on page 164. That's on the one hand. However, say it with me. We need something to pray about if we're going to focus for the Kavanah. Did I mention earlier this is the first Friday of the month, celebration Shabbat? Well, that means that we're making a moment here to focus on all of our friends in the Temple family who already have been or will be observing birthday and anniversary celebrations during this new month just begun. Alan and Sue Kluger, what's the date today? The 6th. Up to bat on the 4th, Don and Roberta Schwartz, tomorrow the 7th. And the Pavlovs coming up on the 20th. You guys got the shoulder season pre-Christmas special. Kinanhora, how many years? 60. A nice round number this year. Kanyirabu and Kinanhora indeed. And birthdays. Anthony Zager, Marlene Glass, already up on the first. Joan Thompson, 4th. Coming up, Lawrence Satcher, Robin Singer. There she is right there, 16th. Well-balanced in the middle of the month. I mean, you're a well-balanced woman who satisfies her sense of proportions just as a matter of principle. Stacy Berner, Tony Pinto coming up on the 17th. Arthur Doxer, and myself the day after Christmas. My folks got a special. Postseason Boxing Day special. Not that particular year, but nice of you to say so. All I know is that they had a television set in the hospital room, which was an innovation back then. And my father and the doctor were sitting at the foot of the bed watching Jack Parr and laughing their guts out. And my mother said, "Can you get this baby out of me now?" For everyone with celebrations coming up this month are already here, and those in the room physically stand with us. You guys are all clannish, clustered up right there. Ribono Shel Olamim, our God and God of our forebears, you too, birthday girl. May your blessings be upon all the precious members of our congregation who are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries this month just begun. Give them health and joy and happiness as looking back at, or in this case, in anticipation of their coming celebrations, we proclaim together, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. And many happy returns. We invite everyone to join them by having your palms of your feet firmly on the floor, and let us stand together as on page 164. Before we step, however, virtually apart for our tefillah, we begin by saying together the words of the psalmist, Adonai svatai tiftach, ufi agid tilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. come back together in song with a double challenge to see, first of all, who can remember the new melody, the nigun, the cantor began our service with, and secondly, who can remember the last verse of Adon Olam without having to look for it on page 625?
The last two verses.
My soul I give to you,
my spirit in your hand. Draw near to me, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Save me in your hand.
my soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hands. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Save me in your hands.
Since you loved singing it so much this week, we're going to do it next week.
And having come back together in song, we have one last prayer of import. We reach out our hearts to those in, and certainly very often far beyond this room, to the men and women of the armed forces of the United States and of Tsahagan Israel, wounded in the line of duty and recovering very often far from home. For members of our own congregation and their friends and family. For those unwell, recovering from, preparing for surgery, anxiously awaiting test results, looking to break out of invidious cycles of addiction, anxiety, pain, and fear. For so many people in need of so many different kinds of healing. Among them, Leah Jacobson, Joan Thompson, Bert Posner, Freda Rosef, Roberta Schwartz, Talara Batshira, Jane Barron, Joanne Blau, Maxine Brenner, Shirley Posner, Larry Satcher, Lydia Kruger, and kinfolk and friends of our congregation for whom our prayers have been asked. Ron Dwaron, Robert D'Onofrio, Morgan Frazier, John Vernon, Jill Birch, Kayla Monasterio, Julie Fitzgerald, Susan Donahue, Margaret Gallivan, Ruth Ann Ludolph, Pamela Michelle, Gary Singer, Marianne Mulligan, Peter Giori, Linda Gagnon, Christy Raymond, Phil Fournier, Tom Malota, Beth Landris, Brandon Ben Sharon, and those whose names we might like to call out and add to our prayer list. And those distance davening, you don't hesitate at all to yell at a bad call from the umpire. Don't hesitate to make a good call in our direction with the name of those in need of healing. And however virtually we will receive it on this end, as together we join our cantor in this prayer for healing.
Thank you.
to all of you, I say, amen, seconding each other's motion. This is, I guess, our third week in a row, experimenting. We consolidated into the intimate space of our Mir Center a couple weeks back because our sanctuary was given over to preparations for Bubby's Bakery. Shameless plug, we do have some babka and challah left over. If anyone wants a great deal on some matzo ball soup, you know who to call. All right, well, everything is gone? No. Okay, again, there's always room for one more, maybe two or three or four. Nursery school song every Friday morning. We decided we're moving into a smaller space. Let's play with a smaller format. We have a magnificent synagogue home we built and embellished over the years. And for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, for major state occasions when we have a large constituency and a formal event, all right, we'll move upstairs, but the cantor came up with a couple of possibilities. What if our people who like to sing but think they can't because that's the cantor's job, so they're not allowed to, she says, I'll stake out a couple things I like to do, and everyone will know this is my flamboyant, magnificent Juilliard piece. But everything else the congregation prays together. And as I mentioned recently, the cantor is the pace car. Second time tonight, twice in 2 weeks. So that was one prospect. She says, let's change, tweaking just a little, the essence of what it is we sing and how we sing it. Secondly, let's move the seats closer together. Let's interfere with people's comfort zone so that we're actually looking at and interacting with each other across the room. Folks over there in the north, wave at the Southerners. Southerners, wave at the folks up in the Yankees over there. And thirdly, the cantor said, it's a small, intimate setting. Let's us come downstairs too, because traditionally, again, the rabbi doesn't lead services. The congregation prays together with the cantor as a pace car. I'm happy to be your master of ceremonies, but nonetheless. So this is our third week in a row, second week back in the synagogue, and again, we'll play with it. Our ongoing experimentation in tweaking worship style broaches the interesting question. What 200 years ago the Jews coming out of the ghettos in Germany decided to call Yahadut Mitkademet, a progressive Judaism, a reforming of Judaism. How to express a little innovation, not enough to jar, lose, or alienate people, within the framework and the authenticity of tradition. A modern approach to tradition, but also anchoring ourselves with a traditional approach to modernity. And the classic model that the rabbis of the Talmud speak of constantly. How to balance the keva, the fixed content of our prayer service, with the kavanah, the spontaneity, the personal involvement and investment. Underlying all of this is a central fundamental principle that our common practice defines who we are. This week, one of my colleagues in our professional forum expressed her queasiness with the fact that somebody she doesn't know, who claims to have been a former member, dropped in out of the woodwork and wanted her to validate that they're Jewish because they want to make Aliyah. Well, how do you vouch for someone that you don't know? She brought her parents' ketuvah, but not her bat mitzvah certificate. I responded that I make no qualms about, on the one hand, stretching the parameters a little bit to validate and include people when I've been approached in similar situations. But on the other hand, I also said no once. I've said no on a few occasions, but this is the one that mattered. Early 80s, a fellow in our international community drops in, an Iranian young man about 20, claiming he's Jewish and wanting me to certify on temple letterhead that he's Jewish because if he goes back to Iran, he'll be subjected to persecution as a Jew. Well, this was the year after the revolution, so that might have been the case. But talking to him, it quickly became obvious he ain't Jewish. He just doesn't want to be cannon fodder in the war then ongoing between Iran and Iraq. He's a draft dodger who found a loophole and approaches me out of the blue. Now, and I say this with tongue in cheek, I can't ask him to lower his trousers because coming from a Muslim country, he's circumcised anyway. And the reason I tell the story is this. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I have a prayer that contains only 6 words. I'll give you the first 3. Give me any one of the rest. Shema Yisrael Adonai. And he sat and looked at me blankly. This is the fundamental, my friends. It is our common practice. In the United States, where Jews are so assimilated and extensively involved into and married into the larger society around us, less than half the Jewish kids in this country get any Jewish education. That includes having a retired cantor coach them for bar mitzvah lessons to fake their way through one service. Only half the Jewish kids in America. In our tradition of scholarship and learning and commitment to community involvement. And yet, it's a rare Jew that don't know at least a couple of the words, Shema Yisrael. It is our common practice that defines who we are. Give me the next word, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. It is our common practice that defines who we are. Earlier this week, at random, Carol and I had 10 minutes to kill on our way to an appointment. We said, stick our head in the Judaica shop. And I pulled up off the shelf and read this week Moshe Koppel's book, Judaism Straight Up. Why Real Religion Endures. And he makes an interesting observation. I have emphasized often enough, in every congregation, there's lots of different congregations. There's the shul goers that really love religion and love God. There's the shul goers that go because they like the cookies afterwards. I emphasize for the visitors, ours is the only synagogue in the world that genuinely puts out a root beer floats at the Oneg Shabbat. So some people come for dessert, and that's fine with me because they come. There are several congregations within every congregation. So Moshe Koppel, who's a professor of computer science at Bar Ilan University in Israel, says those who observe ritual don't necessarily do it for utilitarian reasons. Even those norms that do not have an obvious rationale have subtle and important utility for social solidarity. Our community consists of people who share rituals and ceremonies, behaviors and actions, and the attitudes and values of that community shapes and defines each one of us. There is a Yiddish neshama, and you don't have to know Yiddish to have one. So this calls to mind something in our Torah portion this week. Our forebear Jacob, who hasn't yet been renamed Israel, he's just Jacob, Yankele, a wonderful name that means the backstabber, the deceiver, the heel grabber. Jacob has been 20 years at his uncle Lavan's house back in Haran, up in, nowadays it's just over the border into Turkey from the center of Syria. Caravan crossroads, it's where Grandpa Abraham left to go to the promised land. He's been there 20 years, staying in his uncle's house, married to his cousins, cranking out kids in the great baby derby. And after 20 years, we're told, Vayar Yaakov pnei Lavan v'hine enenu imo kitmol shilshom. There comes a point after 20 years when Jacob, beholding the face of his uncle and father-in-law Lavan, it says, Einenu imo kitmol shilshom. Now, I render that poetically, was not so favorably disposed towards him, because for the previous 6 years, they cut a deal on which share of the flock would be Jacob's. Uncle Lavan then switched the rules, and God allows Jacob to prosper anyway. So most of Lavan's wealth has now gone to Jacob. Uncle Lavan is not so well disposed, and that's the way we read it. But what's interesting is that the phrase, V'hine Einenu imo, speaking of his face, Einenu imo kitmol shilshom, he was not in Jacob's sight the same as he had been, did not strike him as it had before. Uncle Lavan's face did not strike him as it had before. Now, Lavan has never been a fan of Jacob. He's always been a ferdsganef, a mamzer, a liar, a cheat, a sneak, and a thief, and a man I'm proud to call my friend. That was the Harry Anderson line. He's never really been fond of his nephew and son-in-law. He just wants to keep him around because blessing flows his way and Lavan benefits. So what's changed now? Suggestion. It's not Laban's face that's changed, but Jacob's perception of it. He has hit a point in his life and his personal development where he's now suddenly appalled, having previously been appalled by his uncle's enslavement to materialism and money grubbing. Jacob now comes to see himself yielding to it. He's beginning to buy into the program. Everyone knows the Yiddish phrase, Verdsganif, a horse thief. His uncle is a used camel dealer. Living with a Verdsganif, he's through long exposure, now suddenly come to a point where he sees low cunning as being normal. After 20 years in this environment, with a jarring shock, he realizes there's no longer any daylight between his values and those of his corrupt, dishonest, cheating uncle. My beloved and long-departed colleague Pinchas Pelly, 40 years ago, commenting on this, points out 20 years earlier, when Jacob fled his family and went off to Haran, he had a dream of a ladder that stretched from earth to heaven, that connected him to God. Angels of God descended, and God personally came and said, Jacob, you're my dude. In the immortal words of Crocodile Dundee, me and God, we be mates. Well, that's what God said about Jacob. That was his dream 20 years earlier. But now his dream is about sheep, which in the ancient world, let's be fair, that's hard cash. It's the medium of exchange. But here is Rabbi Pelly's observation. Avarice and ambition, Laban's worldview. Dreaming of sheep cannot be allowed to replace his idealistic dreams of communicating with God. So question, does Laban pack up, Freudian slip, Jacob. Does Jacob pack up, leave Laban's house in Haran and go home because God tells him to? Because his 20-year indenture is up? Or because only by returning to the land of his forebears can he recapture the vision of a spiritual life, the prospect of no longer being Jacob, the deceiver, but becoming Yisrael, the God wrestler? Ponder that question and the degree to which, if you play with mud, some of it sticks. That we are the product of our environment as well as of our values. This is our environment, where regardless of what our personal practice may be, including non-existent, if you keep glut kosher and wait 12 hours between meat and milk, or you're the first in line for stone crab season over here at the corner at Pincher's. Whether you daven or don't, one way or another, walking in the door here, this is our shared house of Yisrael, where we are Jacob's descendants struggling for God. Speaking, if only implicitly, of the values that we share by virtue of our fabulously ancient legacy. But this Shabbat is the reminder that we are the product of our environment as well as of our values, which calls to mind that marvelous poem by Mary Smith, Sunscreen, 1997. She published it claiming that it was written by Kurt Vonnegut. Somebody set it to music and made a top 40 hit out of it. We are the product of our environment. 2 lines in Mary Smith's poem. Live once in New York City, but leave before it makes you hard. Live once in Northern California, but leave before it makes you soft. We are the product of our environment. And we're privileged to have this environment here that every single member of this congregation supports, and every davener, permanent resident, seasonal resident, or one-time visitor, by virtue of coming in the door, fabricates and substantiates. Shabbat Shalom. Mr. President, you want to work from the center mic there by the candles, if you would.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom, greetings from our Board of Directors and a few announcements. Can you all hear me? Is the mic picking up? I welcome visitors worshiping with us tonight, and I invite you to stay on hand for the Oneg Shabbat following services. Tonight's Oneg was coordinated by Mary Pinto, Joanne Blau, Mitch Braun, Bob Jarez, Sandra Heckler, Linda Reitzes, Phyllis Rosenblum, Robin Singer, and Beth Weinberg. Our lovely flowers are donated by Jonathan and Heather Greenfield in honor of all the December anniversaries and birthdays. Current details of everything going on in congregational life can be found at our website, in our monthly newsletter, The Messenger, and in the semi-weekly email notifications we send out. But tonight, I'd like to remind everyone, we are collecting toys until December 20th for the Golisoma Children's Hospital of Southwest Florida, in memory of our members Tony and Mary Pinto's granddaughter, Ella Fields. There will be a box at the entrance. The 2025 Concert and Film Festival is now available for purchase at jcmimusic.com. We have a great lineup for 2025. The first film, The Catskills, will be Sunday, December 22nd at 2 p.m. The next Women Book Club will be December 17th at 11 a.m. here at JCMI. The book of the month is The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. All are welcome, including men, and even if you didn't read the book. The Jewish Federation of Greater Naples will be having their Hanukkah celebration on Thursday, December 26th at 5 p.m. at Mercado. Our very own Charlie Bloom will be the MC. The Federation has joined or helped organize a community security network. There is a community security network for Florida and then a separate one for Southwest Florida. The state is segmented in different groups. And they are going to be here Sunday, December 29th from 9 to 11 for the staff and members. And we highly urge you to attend. They're going to present an active shooter seminar, otherwise known as Run, Hide, Fight. And in fact, if you remember the synagogue in Texas where an intruder came in and held hostage and they all escaped unharmed, well, they had just had this program at that synagogue. So I urge you to attend. Even if you're not a member, you're welcome to attend, to come in. It is mandatory for board members and for staff, but we encourage all congregate members to come and partake of it. Please join us for the community Hanukkah celebration of our own, which will take place Sunday, December 29th at 5:30. Monday Night Bingo has returned every Monday night at 5:30. Anthony Pinto Jr.'s honey's on sale at the office for $15. A portion of the sale goes to the synagogue. And the office is selling memorial yard-side candles if you have a need. Do not forget to bring in food for those in the community who are less fortunate when you come on Fridays, or leave a donation in the tzedakah box. And now, as we move to the conclusion of tonight's service, I invite to the bema our final honorees, Karen and Peter Kirshner. Please reopen our prayer books to page 586 and rise together for Elena.
Kirshner's, it's your moment of glory to arise to a higher madrega. But I've learned from experience that you people in the back row from Massachusetts can't be trusted. I get my card right up front. Thank you. Bottom of page 586. Jump in with the cantor once the doors are open. And the curtains. We're going to go full bore.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'teit gedula li'otzer b'reshit shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam va'anachnu kore'im u'mishtachaviim u'modim
a Kaddish prayer on page 598, satellite Siddur on page, well, I guess wherever it is, forgive me, wrong note. Well, you know where you are. The final tribute of praise with which we can conclude every session of study and of worship. A tribute on this Shabbat to Angela Nunez, laid to rest within this week now ending, whose family observes yet the week of Shiva. As well as these, the anniversaries of whose deaths were observed during the week now ending. Carol's aunt, Ruth Abeson, Zyla Ashkenazi, Louis Bolmash, David Edelstein, Leon Bienton, Davis Lewis Greenspan, Aaron Grossman, Emmanuel Haber, Jacob Rosenberg, Ida Siegel, Arnold Yora. Anyone have Avilut, the art site, in addition? Zichronam livracha, may remembering them be always a blessing. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, yalma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chaychon v'yomechon, b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'yizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mavorach, l'olam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei kudusha b'richu, ne'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom b'imromav, huya ase shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May the maker of peace on high make peace for us, for all Israel, for all who mourn, and let us say. Amen. We're going to close this evening, Satellite Siddur. This was my page cue. You're on page 10. We're on page 625 in the big prayer book, Adon Olam. And this is the second week in a row the cantor wants to introduce and have us humming along and hopefully singing along. Because you liked it. French Sephardic, semi-Baroque. Adon Olam Asher Mahalach B'terem kol yetzir nivra Le'et nahasa b'cheft sokol Azai melech shemo nikra Azai melech shemo nikra Ve'acharei kichot hakol levado Kuno nora Vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yeh betifara, vehu yeh betifara, vehu echad ben sheni leham, lishno lahachbira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, velo haoz, v'ham yisra. Below haos v'hamisra Be'yado hafkid ruchi Be'et kishan Be'ave ahira Be'im ruchi Gabiyati Adonai li Below ira Adonai li Below ira. Everyone turn to the person closest to you didn't come with. Front, side, back, wherever, and say, Shabbat Shalom. You want a motzi? Come get a piece of challah. Mitch, this is personal initiative.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
And after I made the quip last week, one of our leaders mentioned to me in an email this week, he had an aunt named Minnie Horowitz.